This is a kind of question where, yes, you can use some prior knowledge if you know about it, but all of the information is contained in the question. The first thing we should be looking at here is that it reminds us that S waves can only travel through solids, and P waves can travel through both solids and liquids. That's information that you should actually know for P1, but the exam has told you, so there's no excuses really for not getting this kind of question right. So, S waves can only travel through solids, P waves can travel through both solids and liquids. Now let's have a look at this here. It shows where the earthquake was, and it shows the various earthquake stations around the world and which types of waves that they detected. So let's first of all connect up these three here. Only P waves made it through to those detectors, and also P waves made it through to these detectors here and these detectors here. The S waves, however, were not detected at these stations around here. They were only detected at these ones up here. So let's draw in our S waves. Okay, now this should be able to tell us something quite interesting. The S waves can only travel through solids. So this must mean, because the S waves have been able to reach these areas here, this must mean that our mantle is solid. It also must mean that because it wasn't able to travel through the outer core, it must mean that the outer core is a liquid. However, we can't tell about the inner core, because any S waves that have been stopped by the outer core would never get a chance to get to the inner core. So I'm afraid we're going to have to say we cannot tell about the outer core, which leaves us with the crust. Well, the crust is the layer that's right around the outside, a very thin layer that's not marked on the diagram. The S waves have clearly been able to pass through that, so we must also say that the crust is a solid. This question draws a little bit more on your knowledge of earthquake waves, so you can't really get away with just repeating the information from the question. It tells us that a P wave moves the ground up and down, so this will be moving in the direction of travel of the wave, and that an S wave moves the ground from side to side, which would be moving perpendicular at 90 degrees to the direction the wave itself is travelling in. So we should know from our knowledge of waves that a P wave is a longitudinal wave, and the reason it causes the ground to move like that is because the vibrations move in the same direction as the wave. On the other hand, we have our S wave, which is a transverse wave, which means that the vibrations move perpendicular or 90 degrees to the direction that the wave is travelling. So those 4 points there we get as the 2 marks. One for identifying the waves as P waves as longitudinal waves and S waves as transverse waves. That will get you 1 mark. And the second mark for saying that a longitudinal wave moves in the same direction as the vibrations, and the other for saying that a transverse wave, the vibrations move perpendicular to the direction of the wave. The next part of the question is a little bit cheeky. It asks you to say why S waves usually do more damage to buildings than P waves. It's not something that comes up really in the spec for P1, but you'd need to say something like buildings are more stable against up and down motion than they are against side to side motion, and that would get you the mark there. But a difficult question. Finally, we've got a speed, distance, time problem here, so we need to do speed equals distance over time. and rearrange that to work out that time equals distance over speed, and this will allow us to work out the time taken for each of these two waves to arrive. So we've got our first wave here, the P wave, is travelling 30 kilometres at 6 kilometres per second, which means that's going to take 5 seconds. And we've got our other wave here, which is travelling also 30 kilometres, but it's travelling that in 4 seconds. So it's travelling that at 4 kilometres per second. So that will take 7.5 seconds. So the difference between the two times, 7.5 and 5 seconds, is 2.5, which will be our final answer.